The chilling instance of Kira Steger genuine wrongdoing. Today we will take a gander at a case that occurred in Minnesota back in 2013. 30-year-old Kira Steger was utilized as a store representative at a dress store situated in the shopping center of America. She was enthusiastic about her work and never skirted a shift, so when on February 23, 2013 she didn't come to work, her colleagues got stressed. They attempted to reach out to Kira, however she didn't call them back or instant messages, and the police were before long informed that she was missing. Kira K. Steger was conceived November 19, 1982 in Des Plaines, Illinois. She was the little girl of Marcy and Jay Steger, who portrayed her as an enthusiastic, devoted and sweet girl. Kira was utilized at the shopping center of America and worked for 2 stores there, Wet Seal and Most as of late Delia's. Her collaborators were extraordinary companions, as well as Kira thought of them as a feature of her family. Kira had an exceptional ability for perceiving individuals' assets that they personally didn't see. She arranged and expected a promising future which looked brilliant and tranquil. Unfortunately, everything she could ever hope for finished in a moment when Kira bafflingly evaporated. On Thursday, February 21, 2013, Kira had a shift at work. Her collaborators said she had been feeling significantly better and wanted to go to a decent eatery with her significant other after the store shut. Kira and Jeffrey Trevino got familiar a long time back. They promptly lighted a flash among them and began a heartfelt connection which eventually brought about a wedding. For the most part, Kira and Jeffrey appeared to be a blissful and stable wedded couple. There could have been incidental conflicts between them, yet everything was kept inside their own circle. Not one or the other family members, companions nor associates knew about them. Somewhere around 2 days after the fact, on Saturday, February 23, when Kira didn't come to work, her associates were concerned on the grounds that such way of behaving was not regular of her. She was on time, severe with herself as well as other people, never endured being late and stuck to her timetable, having neglected to arrive at Kira. Her colleagues called Jeffrey, yet he had no clue about where his better half had gone. According to Jeffrey, Kira had gone out the past morning and had not come back since. It wasn't exactly stressing to him on the grounds that Kira tended to sometimes vanish for a little while. She would remain the night at a companion's home or go to a general's place unannounced. One thing that could have caused stress was the terrible climate that day, since it had been snowing vigorously. Jeffrey proposed that perhaps there was something that might have happened to her on the manner in which maybe her vehicle stalled out and her cell battery ran out of force around the same time. Having gotten no report from his significant other, Jeffrey documented a report for someone who has gone missing and reached out with Kira's family. Her relatives were shocked by the secretive vanishing of their cherished one, and it was a major catastrophe for them, having gotten a report for someone who has gone missing. For Kira Steger, analysts promptly got to function as it is considered normal in such cases. The examination began with scrutinizing the companion and looking the closest environmental factors. This was no exemption. Analysts went to Jeffrey's home to converse with him. Jeffrey informed investigators that on Thursday he and Kira were hoping to have some time together. They ate, chatted, played bowling and at last left the shopping center. By Jeffrey's record, he and Kira headed home straight away as Kira planned to watch a film. Jeffrey likewise let investigators know that his better half gone out the following day, which was a Friday, around 8:30 a.m. An occasion was booked working and her obligatory presence was required. She was behaving to no one's surprise and he saw nothing unusual. Jeffrey found it business as usual that Kira would vanish every once in a while, in spite of the fact that he didn't even know where she was or who she was investing energy with. They had been having relationship issues for a couple of months, said Jeffrey. Anyway, he didn't consider it to be significant or disturbing, believing it to be simply minor contentions that happen in all families. The criminal investigator began asking Jeffrey who Kira may be remaining with, inquiring as to whether she could have had a darling. The man declined this idea as he had by and by got some information about this and got a negative reaction in the most natural sounding way. For Jeffrey, he truly cherishes his better half and trusts her. The Examiners gave all the data they figured out how to gather about Kira and her vehicle to the on-the-job watches. The investigators went to the Shopping Center of America themselves to affirm the believability of Jeffrey's words and conceivably get a few hints. Shopping Center of America is among the greatest shopping centers overall. It is arranged in Bloomington. It highlights 520 stores, amusement leaves, an oceanarium, cinemas, a fairway, and considerably more. Consequently, it's not shocking that the shopping center is fitted with various surveillance cameras. Knowing at what time Kira had gone home on February 21, the criminal investigators investigated that second. The recording showed business as usual. Jeffrey's record turned out as expected. He met Kira after work and they hung out at the shopping center for some time, then went down to the parking area and gotten away. There were no contentions among them and the night seemed to have gone fine. Unfamiliar. Nothing is all around as terrible as holding up with practically no information on what's happening, and with each progressive day the tension for Kira's life was getting logically more terrible, coming up short on any report from her, and having become worn out on holding up. Kira's family made a trip to Bloomington with an end goal to attempt to assist with the examination. They had flyers printed with her photos on them, posted them on surveys and conveyed them to passers-by on the road. Their goal was to draw in however much consideration as could reasonably be expected to the quest for Kira. They understood they couldn't just reserve, yet needed to do all that they could to find their cherished one. While Kira's family was circulating pamphlets, the examiners proceeded with their request. While talking, several neighbors' officials saw an observation camera introduced on one neighbor's home. The camera pivoted sideways and in one of its points it caught Kira and Jeffrey's home. Consequently, the specialists requested that the property holder duplicate the camera film for them as they desire to uncover a few hints from it. Meanwhile, a cell organization's records showed up and furnished examiners with another lead. As per Kira's telephone records, she had one more man in her life other than Jeffrey. He ended up being Ryan Wendt, who was the director of a similar store chain in one of which she was utilized. They had an extremely extraordinary and extensive relationship and compared habitually. Police had the option to learn that Ryan Wendt was out of state, and keeping in mind that a quest for Kira was continuous, Ryan was going in his vehicle towards Colorado. This man was of significant importance to the examination on the grounds that, as well as having a close connection with Kira, he likewise moved out of Express a similar time she vanished. Perhaps it was a simple occurrence and that's it, or maybe things were totally unique and his departure conceals something behind it. The examiners would need to find the response to that question. In any case, the analysts figured out how to arrive at Ryan, and he agreed to show up for a dressing in Colorado, where he was posed numerous inquiries. He expressed that he last reached Kira while he was driving his vehicle across South Dakota and traded messages with her. These instant messages had been sent right away before Kira's vanishing. After auditing the planning of the instant messages, analysts confirmed that Kira had been in touch with her new darling. Similarly, as she was feasting with her better half, it was completely clear from the correspondence that Kira was progressively becoming far off from Jeffrey. The agents analyzed Ryan's telephone to decide his area concerning the cell towers and explored his financial records. It seemed he was truly out of Express that specific night and had not a chance of being associated with Kira's vanishing. He was delivered and dropped from the rundown of suspects. On that premise, the timestamp of the messages uncovered that Kira was all the while messaging with Ryan. In any event, when she got back with her significant other anyway, their correspondence finished after 11:44 p.m. and from that point forward Kira's telephone has been idle. In the meantime, an alternate group of specialists was preparing to look at the video film from the observation camera introduced on Kira's neighbor's home. This camera caught a large part of the road clearing left and right. Anyway, it was turning far excessively fast, and that mentioned observable fact troublesome, since in the event that the examiner spotted something dubious, the camera would pivot to the opposite side in a moment. Jeffrey and Kira's home was seen exclusively for a concise couple of moments. As the camera moved to the right, Jeffrey expressed that in the wake of having supper and bowling, he and Kira returned home, watched a film and resigned to bed. Anyway, when specialists checked on the video film, they saw that right after 2 a.m. Kira's vehicle switched into the In view of the bad quality of the recording and the steady movement of the camera from one side to another, it was difficult to tell unequivocally the thing was occurring on screen around then, yet the vehicle before long got away from their home. Jeffrey ascribed the night drive to the way that Kira had advised him to siphon gas in her vehicle preceding her drive tomorrow, so he went to the corner store. Shockingly, an adequate number of his story was valid. He was truly seen at the service station at around 3:30 at daybreak. Anyway, the criminal investigators found that later. Leaving the service station, he didn't get back yet for reasons unknown. Advanced towards the thruway. It is muddled where he headed next. The neighbor's camera didn't record him returning home, however it might have been a simple occurrence as it was pivoting continually in this manner. It is conceivable hypothetically that Jeffrey might have gotten back home later in the day when the camera was confronting the other course. When specialists took a gander at the recording further, they saw that Kira's Chevrolet drove away at 9:21 a.m. Disappointingly, it was basically impossible to see who was in the driver's seat. A report for someone who has gone missing was recorded with police on Saturday, February 23, and the police division got an approach Monday, February 25 to report the finding of a dubious vehicle close to the mall where Kira was utilized. There are two multi-story parking areas. Safety officers saw that a specific vehicle had been left there for a few days and mentioned a tow truck. The tow transporter continued to analyze the vehicle prior to getting it and spotted dubious-looking red smears on the storage compartment cover, then called the police. That vehicle ended up being Kira's white Chevy. There wasn't that much blood, only a couple of little stains, yet it was there, and that was an extremely terrible sign. Kira's tote, which was recuperated from her unloaded vehicle, had separate from court frames that seemed as though they had been downloaded from the web. Furthermore, a little dim thing lying in the snow behind the vehicle grabbed the specialist's eye. When they drew near, they saw a moved-up trunk mat that had dim shaded stains on the switch side. DNA testing verified that it was Kyra Steger's blood. With lament, the specialists started to understand that Kira was doubtlessly as of now not alive. This horrendous disclosure was a serious shock to her loved ones. Their last any expectation of seeing Kira again was lost, yet with this bunch questions emerged to them. How could she bite the dust? Did she endure? And who might have loathed her enough to have denied her of her life? The shortfall of Kira's body intensified the matter, for it was significantly more hard to get through the distress that had occurred for them without it. The investigators' main concern currently was to recognize the individual who deserted the vehicle in the parking garage. The vehicle drove away from the house at 9:21 a.m. roughly 20 minutes after the fact. The shopping center's cameras caught it. There were no cameras in the parcel where the vehicle was found, however there was a camera aimed at the way that prompted the vehicle. The camera was situated close where Kira's vehicle was situated. In the wake of review the recording from that camera, the investigators saw that a couple of moments after the white Chevrolet crashed into the parking garage, a man with a hood covering his head showed up in the recording. It was genuinely cold, and it didn't appear to be odd that the man was in a hoodie, yet the investigators needed to follow where he was going. It was seen that the hooded man made it across the road and strolled to a taxi stand where he had a concise discussion with one of the drivers, then got into the vehicle and drove off. The police had the option to figure out which organization they taxis left in the parking garage of the mall had a place with. In view of the hour of the hooded man's connection with the driver, it was easy for the police to recognize the tag number of that specific vehicle. The taxis were all furnished with GPS beacons, which uncovered that the hooded man closed his excursion a street or two away from Kira and Jeffrey's home and afterward escaped the vehicle in the wake of paying money. As it left the area, the taxi was trapped in the focal point of the very camera that had to some extent recorded Kira and Jeffrey's home. Following 2 minutes, a hooded man entered the edge. The logo of the recording made it hard to see his face, yet the thing was striking was the white logo on his hoodie. As the specialists continued to see the recording, they saw the hooded man stroll into the house where Kira and Jeffrey resided. Kira had been missing, which made it almost sure that the hooded man was Jeffrey. Subsequent to getting a court order, the cops went to the house from the start. It seemed to be a customary mediocre house, yet that was exclusively from the beginning. Under nearer assessment, they Criminalists began to find dim red stains in the room of the life partners. There were a couple of stains on the wall next to the bed and around 100 of them on the sleeping pad. It was clear that the room had as of late been revised and cleaned. When the legal sciences group showered luminol, the floor cover was essentially sparkling. It had a ton of blood smudges on it that couldn't be identified by the unaided eye. These messes started in the room and reached out into the opposite side of the house. Criminology affirmed that it was Kira's blood, and this further persuaded specialists that she was presently not alive other than looking through within the house. Police likewise inspected Jeffrey's vehicle. The actual vehicle had no blood in it, nor did they notice any proof of a battle, yet they actually figured out how to find something of interest. A corner store receipt was found in Jeffrey's vehicle, gave an hour and 40 minutes before Kira's vehicle was left in the shopping center parking garage. In light of the receipt data, the buy was made with Jeffrey's card. Analysts continued to that corner store to survey the security film. The recording caught Jeffrey topping off his vehicle, then, at that point, heading inside and pulling out cash from an ATM. This recording gave a brief look at Jeffrey's face and showed that he had a logo on his coat in the chest region that seemed to be the logo on the man from the prior film. Based on this recording and all proof found in the house, 39-year-old Jeffrey Trevino was nabbed. He was brought to the station for addressing and was presently the prime and just suspect. Promptly from the cross-examination room, Jeffrey arrived at his lawyer, who encouraged him to practice his entitlement to stay quiet. The police had adequate proof to charge him. However, the most unquestionable proof of his responsibility would be the body. Nobody had any uncertainty that Kira was dead. The police altogether and a few workers went through months looking for her in Late Walk. As the snowdrift began to clear, workers found a bizarre pack by the side of the road at Keller Lake, a couple of miles from Trevino's home, and called the police. The sack contained a bloodied cushion, a shirt and a bra. The legal sciences group connected the finding to Kira, as her DNA was distinguished on the things. The lake was as yet encrusted with ice, which hampered the pursuit, yet jumpers studied the water body. Still they found no remaining parts in it. The region around the lake was looked through different times, utilizing 4 hunt canines prepared to find bodies. However, this also was pointless. Over 2 months following Kira's vanishing on May 8, 2013, the Holy Person Paul Police Division got an upsetting call. The male guest let the administrator know that he had seen what seemed, by all accounts, to be a dead body in the Mississippi stream. What cops recuperated from the water did really end up being a body. There were no garments on it. Dental records confirmed that it was the group of Kira Steger. She experienced serious gruff power injury to her temple and a cracked forefinger on her left hand. In light of the level of decay, the clinical inspectors were unequipped for laying out a precise reason for death. Utilizing the new proof, examiners attempted to reproduce the timetable of occasions paving the way to Kira's demise and the occasions that followed. They estimated that when Kira and Jeffrey returned home, he became mindful or saw that she was messaging another person. Kira was reluctant to show the correspondence to her significant other, so, all in all, he powerfully grabbed her telephone away from her and broke her finger. In the wake of seeing the heartfelt correspondence, Jeffrey developed much more rankled and furiously ended Kira's life, and afterward attempted to disguise proof of the wrongdoing. He utilized her vehicle to head to the house, put the body in the storage compartment, then went to a corner store, and from that point to the waterway where he discarded the body. He thusly drove back home, unloading the sack containing Kira's pad and garments. En route the following morning, he went to a service station and took out cash from an ATM, since he realized that after he left Kira's vehicle in the shopping center's parking garage, he would need to pay for a taxi, and it would be smarter to do as such in real money. In the wake of discarding Kira's vehicle, Jeffrey returned home and worked the remainder of the day on cleaning the house with his slyness. Jeffrey expected to convey the feeling that Kira had driven away in her vehicle without help from anyone else that morning, and that she was entirely fine anyway because of observation cameras. His arrangement bombed. In October 2013, a jury sentenced 39-year-old Jeffrey Trevino, agreeing with the guard that his demonstrations were not planned and that the wrongdoing was the result of a warmed and unexpected contention following the disclosure of his significant other's disloyalty preceding the sentence being declared by the adjudicator. Kira's relatives offered their expressions. "This beast is a determined lawbreaker," said Carrie Ann Steger, Kira's sister. "He merits no leniency." Kira's mom Marcy expressed that Trevino positively made her girl pay. "He unloaded my girl like a piece of garbage into the country's most contaminated waterway," she said. Still, her dad Jay got out anything. "The discipline, it won't ever compensate for the aggravation Trevino has caused their family. No matter how long you give Mr. Trevino, it's insufficient, never enough," he said. In November 2013, Jeffrey Trevino was given a 27.5-year jail sentence. He will become qualified for parole in 2031.